There are moments in life when heaven pierces through the veil of the ordinary, when what seems like routine worship becomes an encounter with eternity itself. This is the story of a humble nun whose quiet devotion led her to witness something that would forever change how she and all who heard her testimony understood the mystery of the Eucharist. Sister Teresa was a woman of silence, obedience, and prayer. For years, she had lived a simple life within the walls of her convent, her faith steady, but her heart quietly longing for renewal. She never imagined that one ordinary Sunday morning, during the Holy Mass, she would be granted a vision so vivid and terrifying that it would shake her soul to its core. A vision not of punishment, but of divine mercy and love, misunderstood, meant. What she saw that day was not a dream or illusion, but a revelation of how heaven views what happens on every altar in the world. The sight of Christ's suffering, the cries of lost souls, and the bleeding hosts suspended over an abyss, it all revealed one truth that humanity often forgets. The Eucharist is not a symbol, but the living heart of God. This is the powerful and haunting testimony of Saint Teresa, the nun whose terrifying vision during Mass opened her eyes, and countless others to the unthinkable reality of Christ's presence in the Eucharist. The chapel was silent, except for the flickering of the sanctuary lamp and the low murmur of prayers that rose like incense toward heaven. The smell of burning wax and lilies lingered in the air. It was an early Sunday morning, the kind of morning when the light seemed gentler, as though heaven itself bent closer to earth. Sister Teresa knelt in her pew, hands clasped, eyes closed, heart still. She had been a Carmelite nun for 20 years, 20 years of silence, prayer, and devotion. Her love for the Eucharist had always been steady, but lately she felt it growing cold, not out of rebellion, but fatigue. Every Mass felt the same. Every consecration, though sacred, felt distant, bland. She often told herself, faith is not a feeling, but deep within, she longed for a sign, something to awaken her soul again. That morning, during the low a.m. Mass, she prayed quietly, "Oh Lord, if I have grown numb to your presence, awaken me, even if it hurts." The priest began the liturgy of the Eucharist. The bells chimed softly as the bread and wine were lifted. Sister Teresa's eyes followed the chalice, gleaming under the candlelight. Her heart whispered another prayer. "Lord, help me see you truly present here, not as a symbol, not as a memory, but as you are." And then something happened. The air grew heavy. The sound of the priest's voice seemed to fade into the distance. The light dimmed, not from the candles, but from something unseen, like a veil descending upon the world. Teresa blinked, unsure if she was losing consciousness. But the next moment, everything changed. Before her eyes, the altar disappeared. The walls of the chapel melted away, and she found herself standing on a vast plain shrouded in gray mist. The smell of sulfur replaced the scent of lilies. She could hear cries, agonizing, echoing from all directions. "Where am I?" she whispered. Then she saw it. A great gulf before her, burning but not consumed, filled with countless souls writhing in torment. Their faces were distorted, not with hatred but with regret. She could hear their cries, "We did not believe. We received without faith. We profaned his body." Her knees gave way beneath her. The horror was unbearable. And then, through the fire, she saw something shining, an altar suspended above the abyss. Upon it lay a host, radiant like the sun. As she gazed, the host began to bleed. Drops of crimson fell from it, each one falling into the fire below. And every time a drop touched the flames, the cries grew louder. It was as though each drop of Christ's blood was a light revealing their guilt, their rejection of his mercy. Teresa covered her face, weeping. "Lord, what is this?" A voice answered, not angry, not cruel, but sorrowful beyond words. "This," the voice said, "is the reality hidden from many hearts. My body is life, yet many receive me as though I were nothing but bread. They come with lips unclean, with hearts untouched. Each wound you see, each cry you hear, is the pain of love refused." She trembled. "But Lord, why show this to me?" Because even those who believe forget. They kneel but do not adore. They speak but do not love. Tell them the Eucharist is not a symbol of me. It is me, flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood, given for love. Every Mass is Calvary renewed. Every consecration is my heart torn open again for the world. As he spoke, the mist began to change. The cries turned into whispers of prayer. From the flames, she saw souls being lifted by beams of light toward the altar above. Their faces changed, suffering replaced by peace. "These," said the voice, "are those who believed, who suffered for my name. My mercy covers them because they adored me in the mystery of the Eucharist." Sister Teresa tried to stand, but her strength was gone. The vision began to fade, and she found herself once more in the chapel. The priest had just lifted the host, saying, "Behold the Lamb of God." Tears streamed down her face. She could no longer see the bread, only Christ himself, wounded, radiant, living. When she went to receive communion, her heart felt as though it might burst. She could feel his presence, not imagined, but real, entering her soul like fire and peace at once. That night, she could not sleep. She went to the chapel and knelt again. The vision haunted her, not in fear, but in awe. She knew it had not been a dream. Her soul felt burned by divine truth. And in her journal, she wrote, "Today, during Mass, the Lord allowed me to see the invisible. He showed me that every drop of his blood cries out for love. He suffers still when we come to him with indifference. I saw the souls who treated the Eucharist as ordinary, and I tremble for the world. But I also saw mercy, mercy beyond measure. The Eucharist is not a ceremony. It is the beating heart of God given for us." For weeks, Teresa remained silent about what she had seen. She feared pride, delusion, or disbelief. But her confessor, a humble priest named Father Miguel, noticed the change in her. "Amanda, you pray differently," he said one evening. "Your silence is deeper." She hesitated, then told him everything. The mist, the fire, the voice, the bleeding host. He listened quietly, his eyes moist. "Linda, my daughter," he said softly, "the Lord has shown you what we priests must remember every time we approach the altar. Do not be afraid. Speak only what leads souls to reverence. Manzia." And so, with trembling courage, Sister Teresa began to share her story with others. Bands. When she spoke, her voice carried no pride, only urgency. "Yeah, I have seen what happens when we take the Eucharist lightly," she told the sisters in her convent. "When we forget that this is Jesus alive and bleeding for love of us. Every Mass is a miracle. Every host is his heart. When you receive him, you are touching heaven itself." And her words began to spread, first among her convent, then beyond. Pilgrims came, asking her to speak about the vision. Some doubted, others wept. But no one left unchanged. Muna, young novice, once asked her, "Sister Teresa, were you afraid when you saw hell?" She smiled gently. "I was not afraid of hell itself. I was afraid of how easy it is to forget the love that saves us from it." Years passed. Sister Teresa grew older, but her fire never faded. She spent every night before the Blessed Sacrament, whispering prayers for souls who had lost faith. Her simple testimony revived many hearts, especially those who had stopped believing in the real presence. One evening, as the sun set and the chapel glowed in golden light, she felt a deep stillness. The air seemed to hum with peace. She knew her time was near. Humband, she received her final communion with trembling hands. "My Jesus," she whispered, "thank you for letting me see what I did. Not to frighten me, but to set me free. Let my last breath be one of adoration." Moments later, she closed her eyes. The sisters later said that her face bore a faint smile, and her hands were clasped tightly over her heart. Lined. When they opened her worn prayer journal, the last line she had written was this: "If the world knew who waits upon every altar, every heart would fall to its knees. The Eucharist is love crucified, risen and alive among us. Believe, adore, and never take him for granted." And as years passed, the story of Sister Teresa's vision spread beyond the quiet walls of her convent. Her words reached priests, nuns, and ordinary faithful, each one moved by her simple, unwavering message. Christ is truly present in the Eucharist, waiting to be loved. Benz. Her testimony became a mirror for many hearts that had grown numb to the sacred mystery. People began to approach Holy Communion with new reverence. Some returned to confession after years of silence. Others wept before the tabernacle for the first time in their lives. Even those who doubted could not ignore the purity of her conviction. Sister Teresa never sought attention. She often said, "I am no one special. I only saw what God allows every soul to see, if only we open our hearts." Her vision was not meant to terrify, but to awaken, to remind every believer that the altar is not just a table. It is Calvary renewed, where heaven bends low to touch the earth. Blind. When she passed away, the sisters found her kneeling in the chapel, her eyes closed, her rosary still between her fingers. The Blessed Sacrament glowed faintly in the tabernacle behind her, and the air seemed filled with a peace not of this world. She had lived her last breath as she had prayed her first before the presence of her beloved. Maligned, her final written words were simple yet eternal. Oh, if you could see what I saw, you would never leave the church after communion. You would fall on your knees and weep for love, for he is here, waiting, suffering, and loving in silence. And so her legacy remains not in grand miracles or canonized titles, but in the quiet conversion of countless souls who learned through her witness to approach the Eucharist not with routine, but with reverence and love. My Jesus, I believe that you are truly present in the most holy sacrament of the altar. I adore you with all the love of my heart. You are my Lord, my Savior, and my closest friend. Forgive me for every moment I have received you without love or awareness. Teach me to honor you, to adore you, and to see you in the mystery of the Eucharist. And let every Mass remind me of your sacrifice, and every communion renew my soul. O merciful Jesus, hidden in the Blessed Sacrament, I offer you my heart in reparation for all the indifference, neglect, and offenses you receive in this Holy Sacrament. And for every soul that doubts your real presence, for every heart that forgets you, I offer my love, my prayers, and my life. Let your wounded heart be consoled by those who still believe. Make me one of them, Lord. Again, may the love of the Eucharistic heart of Jesus fill our souls with faith in it, our eyes with tears of gratitude, and our hearts with a fire that never fades. May we live and die in adoration of his real presence. Amen.